I went to my best friend's wedding, only to discover the groom was actually my husband of 7 years. At that moment, I froze, staring at the familiar face. I'd rather believe I'd mistaken it. And even more absurdly, I had planned this wedding myself. The officiant smiled and said, "Today, we gather here to witness Chloe Bennet and Ryan Brooks' wedding." Ryan Brooks. I heard that name, as if someone had fired a gun next to my ear. People around were clapping. Chloe lowered her head, tears in her eyes, looking like the happiest bride in the world. I slowly stood up. The legs of my chair scraped the floor, making a loud noise. The woman beside me glanced at me. She frowned, as if I was disrupting the sacred ceremony. I didn't look at her. My eyes were fixed on the man at the altar. I spoke, my voice calmer than I expected. "Ryan." The piano continued to play. Chloe's footsteps paused. The groom also raised his head. He saw me. We stared at each other across the entire white corridor. I thought he would panic. I thought he would turn pale. I thought he would walk down the aisle, pull me into a corner, and give me a ridiculous and laughable explanation. But he didn't. He just looked at me, his eyes calm and strangers, as if looking at a woman he didn't know. I called out again, "Ryan Miller." This time, the piano stopped. The entire church fell silent. All eyes fell on me. Someone whispered, "Who is she?" Chloe's fingers tightened their grip on the bouquet. Her father, Mark Bennett, turned his head to look at me. His gaze was cold, like a knife slowly pressing against my face. The officiant froze. I walked out of my seat, step by step, towards the corridor. "Ryan, what are you doing?" I asked. "You told me you were on a business trip in New York. You said you wouldn't be back tonight. Now you're standing here, ready to marry my friend." My voice began to tremble, not because of fear, but because anger was so full, almost spilling out of my throat. Whispers began to fill the church. What did she say? Does she know the groom? Did she get the wrong person? This is too crazy. Ryan finally spoke. His voice was gentle, deep, just like I remembered, but the words he said made me feel like I was standing in ice water. "Lady," he said, "you have the wrong person." I stopped. I thought I had heard wrong. "What?" He took a step forward, standing in front of Chloe. The gesture was like he was protecting her from me, her lawful wife, protecting her today's bride. "My name is Ryan Brooks," he said. "I don't know you." I stared at him, almost laughing. "Don't know me." I raised my left hand, holding up the ring on my ring finger. "This ring, you put on me 7 years ago yourself. You told me at Boston City Hall that you would love me forever. Don't you remember?" Ryan's face showed no change. Chloe suddenly burst into tears. The bouquet in her hand fell to the ground, the white roses spreading out like broken bones all over the floor. "Grace, why are you doing this?" She looked at me, tears sliding down her face. "Today is my wedding." She called me Grace. So she knew it was me. Of course, she knew it was me. We had known each other for 12 years. She had come to my house countless times. She had eaten dinners I had cooked for her. She had sat on my sofa, listening to me talk about Ryan's work stress, listening to me talk about how I wanted a child with him, listening to me talk about how I was lucky to marry a gentleman. Now, she stood beside my husband, in her wedding dress, asking me, "Why are you doing this?" I looked at her, my chest feeling as if it had been torn open. "Chloe, you know who he is," I said. "You know he is my husband." Chloe's tears flowed even more. "You've already divorced him." "Grace," she said, "Ryan told me so long ago. You've just been unwilling to accept it." A buzzing sound went through my head. "Divorced." I was in bed with Ryan last night. He kissed my forehead before leaving, saying he'd be back soon. He told me not to stay up late. He said he'd take me to see a new apartment this weekend. He said we should get a bigger house, maybe one we'd need soon. I even thought he was hinting that we could start preparing to have a child. But now, Chloe says I divorced him long ago. "I haven't divorced him," I said. My voice was low, but every word was clear. "I've never divorced him." Someone started taking out their phone to film me. A security guard walked in through the side door. Mark Bennett raised his hand. The gesture was light, yet it seemed as if it had been arranged long ago. The security guard approached me. "Ma'am, please leave." I didn't move. I looked at Ryan. I wanted to see his face one more time, that I wanted to find a hint of guilt in his eyes, even just a little, but there wasn't any. He looked at me as if I were a nuisance. Chloe cried, leaning into his arms. He lowered his head, supporting her shoulders. At that moment, I finally understood. They weren't caught by me. They had been prepared for this scene long ago. Ryan had prepared to pretend not to recognize me. Chloe is ready to play the victim. Mark Bennett is ready to have security throw me out. Everyone is waiting for me to lose control, for me to scream, for me to become the crazy woman at this wedding. I almost became the image they wanted, but in the very last second before security grabbed my arm, I suddenly calmed down. My fingers reached into my bag, touched my phone. I hit record. The camera focused on Ryan's face, on the name on the wedding backdrop. Chloe Bennet Ryan Brooks. I smiled. "Okay," I said. "I'm leaving." The security guards were stunned, seemingly not expecting me to give up so quickly. I turned and left. Behind me came Chloe's stifled crying, the murmurs of the guests, and Ryan's soft voice comforting her. He said, "It's okay." I froze. "Okay, no, Ryan." This was just the beginning. I walked out of the church, the sea breeze hitting me in the face. The sunlight was great outside, with a champagne tower and white dining tables arranged on the lawn. Each table had seat cards confirmed by my own hands. I stood on the steps, my hands trembling badly. I wasn't not sad. I was too sad. To the point where I couldn't even cry. I opened my phone's photo album and watched the video I just recorded. Ryan's face was clear as day. Chloe's wedding dress was clear as day. The names on the backdrop were clear as day. I took photos of the wedding plaque, the guest list, the cover of the invitation, and the hotel address. Then I called Ryan. The phone rang for a long time. No one answered. I called again. Still no one answered. On the third call, it was hung up on me. The next second, I received a text from Ryan. Just one sentence. Don't make yourself embarrassed anymore. I stared at those words, my fingers tightening bit by bit. Turns out he wasn't unable to answer the phone. He just didn't want to expose himself in front of Chloe that I stood there. Suddenly remembering what he looked like when he left home that morning. He was wearing a gray coat and carrying a suitcase. He said there was an urgent client in New York who needed him there in 2 days. I even helped him tie his tie. He lowered his head and kissed me, saying, "Grace, don't miss me too much." I pushed him away with a laugh. I said, "We've been married for 7 years. Don't act like you're just dating." He laughed too. Now, thinking back, that laugh was perfect. Perfect to the point of making me sick. I drove home. It took over an hour to get from the seaside estate to downtown Boston. I drove the entire way very steadily. Steady to the point where I found it strange myself. My phone kept vibrating. Strangers kept sending messages. "Who are you? Why are you ruining the wedding? Are you crazy? Chloe is so kind. How can you bear it? Ryan doesn't even know you." I didn't reply. I put my phone on silent. By the time I got home, it was already dark. This was the house ID lived in with Ryan for 6 years. White exterior wall, blue door. With 2 pots of lavender I planted myself on the porch. A family name plaque hangs by the door. Miller. I stood at the door for a long time. If the man at the wedding was really Ryan Brooks, what was this place? What was our home? I opened the door. Everything in the living room was normal. There was a book he had read last night on the sofa. There was still coffee on the table that I hadn't finished in the morning. The plan for our trip next month was stuck on the fridge door. I went to the bedroom first. The moment the closet door opened, my heart sank. Ryan's suit was missing a row. Some of his shirts were gone. His usual leather shoes were gone. His watch was also missing 2 pieces from the drawer. I rushed to the nightstand. His passport was gone. I checked the study again. His laptop was gone. The files belonging to him in the safe were also gone. The folder for our joint account was still there. But several key documents were missing. That he wasn't just attending the wedding temporarily today. He had been prepared for a long time. I was sitting on the bedroom floor when I suddenly started to feel cold. 7 years. I've eaten with this man, slept with him, celebrated our anniversary with him. He accompanied me as I said goodbye to my mother. He held me at the funeral and said, "From now on, I am your family." He helped me handle the property and insurance left by my mother. He advised me to put some assets into a spousal trust, saying it would be safer. I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of nausea in my stomach. I immediately turned on the computer and logged into our bank account. Incorrect password. I froze. I tried again. Still incorrect. I tried Ryan's usual password. Account locked. I called the bank, and the customer service representative told me that due to security reasons, our joint account had been temporarily restricted this morning. Both parties needed to be present to lift the restriction. This morning, before the wedding even started, Ryan, while preparing to marry Chloe, had frozen our account. I hung up the phone and sat in the dark. My palms were sweating. He didn't just betray me, he's still cutting off my escape. At 11:47 p.m., the door lock tinkled. I sat in the living room. Without turning on the light, the door was pushed open. Ryan walked in. He was wearing the black suit from his wedding. The tie was already off, the white shirt collar slightly open. He looked a bit tired, but not disheveled. He closed the door, placing the key on the entryway console. His movements were natural, as if he were just coming home from overtime. He walked into the living room, saw me sitting on the sofa. He paused. "Why didn't you turn on the light?" he said. I looked at him. "Is your wedding over?" He didn't answer. He walked over and turned on the floor lamp. The warm yellow light fell on his face, making him still look like that gentle and decent husband. If I hadn't seen him standing in front of the altar with my own eyes, I might never have doubted him. Ryan took off his suit jacket and placed it on the back of a chair. "We need to talk," he said. I stared at him. "Talk about what?" "Talk about why you married my best friend with another name. Or talk about why you said you didn't know me in front of everyone." He sighed. It was a very familiar sigh. Every time we argued in the past, he would sigh like this, as if I were the one who was being childish, and he was the one who had to endure it. "Grace, you lost control today," he said. I laughed. "I lost control? You shouldn't have gone there to cause a scene. I went to the wedding of my best friend," I said. "I didn't know the groom was my husband." "I'm not your husband." The room fell silent. I slowly stood up. "Say that again." Ryan looked at me. his gaze finally no longer feigning tenderness. He walked to the dining table, picked up a brown paper bag, and placed it in front of me. I didn't move. He said, "Open it." I looked at the paper bag. It was placed right where I ate breakfast every day. A few hours ago, I had sat there texting him, asking if he had arrived in New York. He said he had. He said the client was difficult. He said he missed me. Now, he was asking me to open a file. I reached for the bag and pulled out its contents. The first page was a court document. I saw my name. I saw Ryan's name. I saw the date. 3 years ago. My gaze fell on the top line of the text. Grace Walker and Ryan Miller divorced 3 years ago. My fingers froze. Ryan's voice came down from above. "We've been divorced for 3 years. Grace." I looked up at him. He said calmly, "You've just never been willing to accept it." That I stared at the divorce papers for a long time. I recognized every word on the paper, put together. They felt like a ridiculous dream. The application date, March 17th, 3 years ago. The judgment date, May 2nd, 3 years ago. The applicant, Ryan Miller. The respondent, Grace Walker. Both parties agreed to dissolve the marriage. At the bottom, there was my signature, Grace Walker. That was indeed my signature. The tail slightly curved. The arc of the G almost exactly like the way I usually sign, but I had never signed this document. I turned the pages one by one. Property division, housing arrangements, handling of joint accounts, post-marital debt explanation. Every item was written completely, calmly, legally. I saw one line that made my heart feel as if grabbed. Both parties confirm. The property in Brookline, located by Ryan Miller. Grace Walker voluntarily gives up partial disposal rights. The house in Brookline was left to me by my mother. That was the house she bought after working for 30 years. After she passed away, I rented it out, using the rent to pay for her remaining medical bills. Later, Ryan said since we are husband and wife, we could put the house into a joint trust. That way, the taxes would be simpler and safer. I believed him at the time. I looked up. This is fake. Ryan didn't argue. He just sat down in the chair opposite me, looking very tired. "Grace, I know it's hard for you to accept this right now. Don't speak to me like that. I just want you to calm down. Calm down." I tossed the papers onto the table. "You got married to Chloe today. You publicly said you didn't know me. Now you produce a divorce document I never signed, saying I've been divorced from you for 3 years. How am I supposed to calm down?" Ryan looked at me. "Because that's the way it is." I suddenly found it laughable. "Then what about last night?" I asked. "Where did you sleep last night?" He didn't answer immediately. "Over these 3 years, you came back to this home every night, ate with me, and slept in the same bed as me. You celebrated our wedding anniversary with me every year. You called me your wife. You told me we would have children. Now you say we are divorced." Ryan's expression grew colder. "I've been taking care of you, taking care of me. Your emotions have always been unstable," he said. "After the divorce, you couldn't accept reality. I was worried you'd harm yourself, so I didn't move out immediately." In that second, I finally understood his plan. He wasn't just trying to deceive me. He also wanted me to look like a madwoman. I stood there, feeling my body grow colder by the minute. "You said my emotions are unstable." Ryan took out a second file from the paper bag. This time, it was medical records. I saw several pages of psychological evaluation reports. The doctor's name was one ID never seen before. The clinic address was in Cambridge. The record stated I had long-term delusions, emotional attachment disorder, and declining judgment of reality. The last page read, "The patient insists that her ex-husband still maintains a marital relationship with her." I froze. He had even prepared for this step. I picked up the report, my voice tight. "This isn't my record. The doctor wouldn't think so. I've never met this doctor." "You have," Ryan said. "Just that you don't remember." I rushed over and slapped him. The sound was loud. Ryan's face tilted to one side. He slowly turned back, his tongue touching the broken corner of his mouth. His eyes changed. Not anger. It was a warning. "Look," he said. "This is what I meant by losing control." I took a step back. My phone was in my pocket, the recording still on. From the moment he walked in, I had hit record. This was the most right thing I did today. I took a deep breath and forced myself to sit down. "What do you want?" Ryan looked at me. "I want you to leave this house." I chuckled. "This is our home. This house is now under my management. It's not yours. It's not written that way in the legal documents." I looked at him and suddenly asked, "How much does Chloe know?" Ryan's brow twitched, very subtle. "But I saw it. This has nothing to do with her. Does she know you and I are living together? Does she know you kissed me last night? Does she know you got out of our bed this morning, put on a suit, and went to marry her?" Ryan's voice lowered. "Don't bother her." This sentence made me more than all the documents just now. He's not afraid of my pain, not afraid of me collapsing, not afraid of everyone calling me crazy. He only fears me bothering Chloe. My heart felt like it was cut with a knife. But that pain only lasted for a few seconds. Soon, the pain turned into something else. Hard, cold, clear. I put the documents away. Ryan frowned. "What are you doing?" "Leaving evidence. These are copies." "Enough." He stood up. "Grace, don't make things harder." I looked at him. "Ryan, you said in the church that you don't know me. Now you say I'm no longer your wife. Do you want me to disappear?" Then, he didn't speak that I moved closer to him and said, word by word, Then you'd better make sure I really disappear. His gaze darkened. I picked up my bag and turned toward the door. Ryan didn't stop me. As I opened the door, he suddenly said, "Grace." I stopped, not turning back. His voice was soft. "Don't push me to do worse." I gripped the doorknob. "You've already gone too far." I closed the door and stepped into the night. That night, I didn't stay at a hotel. I went to my mother's old house. The Brookline house was on a quiet street, vines over the walls, and there was an old oak tree in the backyard. I rarely came here after my mother passed away. Every time I visited, I felt like I was back on the day I lost her. Her name was Margaret Walker. She was a woman who kept her bills perfectly organized. She never believed in easy luck. She always said, "Sweet things often hide poison." But I didn't listen to her. When I fell in love with Ryan, she wasn't happy. The first time she met him, she asked me, "Do you really understand him?" I was very angry at the time. I said, "Mom, he's the best person I've ever met." She looked at me for a long time, and finally just said, "Then slow down." I didn't slow down. I wanted a family too much. My father left when I was very young. My mother raised me alone. After she got sick, I was afraid of losing her every day. Ryan appeared at that time. He helped me make appointments with doctors. He handled my insurance. He waited with me in the hospital hallway for news. He remembered the names of every medicine my mother took. He would buy me coffee late at night, saying, "Grace, you can lean on me." I did. Then he gradually took everything away from me. I sat on the sofa in my mother's old house until morning. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I went to the court. I wore the blue dress from yesterday's wedding, with a black coat over it. I didn't wear any makeup. The reflection of me in the mirror had a bruise under my eyes, but my eyes were clear. The window staff checked my name. The computer screen was on. She looked for a while and said, "Yes, there is a divorce record in the system." My fingers dug into my palm. "Can I see the original?" She looked up at me. "You are the party involved. You can apply for file retrieval." I filled out the form and waited nearly an hour. When the file was sent out, I almost couldn't dare to reach for it. It was the same as the copy Ryan gave me. The court number was real. The judge's signature was real. The filing date was also real. I asked the staff, "What if I didn't sign these documents?" Her gaze towards me became cautious. "Then you need to find a lawyer." When I left the court, the sunlight hurt my eyes. I sat on the steps, took a photo of the file, and sent it to a notary I knew. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Grace, this signature looks like yours, but the pen pressure is wrong. It could be a scanned copy or a high-level forgery. You need a professional appraisal." That I stared at that sentence. Advanced forgery. Ryan had already used my signature long ago. Over the past few years, he had me sign many documents: tax documents, trust documents, property authorization, medical insurance, company investment forms. I never doubted it, because he was my husband. At 10 in the morning, I went to Chloe's apartment. She lived in Beacon Hill, in a red brick building. A white ribbon from the wedding still hung at the entrance. I rang the doorbell. After a long time, the door opened. Chloe stood behind the door. She wasn't wearing a wedding dress, but a beige robe. Her eyes were a bit swollen, looking like she had been crying. But when she saw me, the sadness on her face quickly disappeared. "You shouldn't be here," she said. I looked at her. "Neither should I have seen my husband at your wedding." She pressed her lips together. "He's not your husband." I took a step forward. "Say that again." Looking me in the eyes, Chloe didn't step back. "Grace, you already divorced him." I didn't. Ryan showed me the documents. Falsified documents. Those were court documents. Court documents can be deceived too. Her gaze flickered. I caught that moment. "You know," I said. Chloe's expression changed slightly. "What do you know?" "You know he and I have been living together." She was silent. In that second, my heart sank completely. I still held on to a last bit of hope. Maybe she was really fooled. Maybe Ryan told her I'm her ex-wife, and she believed him. Maybe she's just stupid, not malicious, but her silence tells me she knows. I asked softly, "When did you find out?" Chloe turned her face. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." "Grace, you're always like this," she suddenly said. "You always think everyone owes you an explanation." I was stunned. It was as if she had finally ripped off that layer of weakness. "Do you know how tired I've been watching you these past years?" she said. "You have a good job, a house, Ryan, everything your mother left you. You have everything, but you still always act like the whole world owes you." I looked at her, and suddenly she seemed very strange. "So you married my husband because you think I have too much?" Her lips trembled. "Ryan loves me." This is what she said with force, as if trying to convince me, and also as if trying to convince herself that he told me that your marriage had ended long ago. "He said you used your illness to tie him down. He said he didn't dare leave you, afraid you'd commit suicide." My breathing slowed down. Ryan's script was complete. To me, he said I was a madwoman who couldn't accept divorce. To Chloe, he said I was a former wife who used her illness to control him. To outsiders, he said he didn't even know me. Everyone was given a different lie. I looked at Chloe. "Where was he last night?" Her face turned pale. I continued to ask. "The night before the wedding, did he stay with you?" Chloe didn't answer. The answer was already clear. I smiled. "He was at my place last night." Her eyes grew red. "You're lying." "You can ask him," I said, "but he won't tell the truth." Chloe raised her hand to close the door. I stopped it. "Chloe, Listen carefully. You can keep pretending to be the victim, but you'd better realize, if he could fool me for 7 years, he can fool you too. She pushed the door hard. Get out. The door closed in front of me. I stood in the hallway, hearing a muffled sob come from behind the door. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not yet. After leaving Chloe's house, I contacted 3 law firms. The first 2, hearing the surname Bennett, politely declined. The third one asked me to come in for a consultation. The law firm was in an old building in the city center. There was no flashy sign at the entrance, only a black metal plaque. Cole Reed Legal Consulting. The person who greeted me was Ethan Cole. He was about 35. Wearing a dark gray suit, with a calm gaze. He didn't seem like the kind of lawyer who would offer comfort. He seemed more like the kind of person who would tear lies apart. I placed the documents on his desk. He didn't speak immediately, but instead read through them page by page. Then he asked, "Are you sure you didn't sign it?" "Sure." "Are you sure you've been living with Ryan Miller for the past 3 years?" "Sure." "Do you have evidence?" I took out my phone, photos, text messages, shared bills, travel records, restaurant reservations, family insurance, wedding anniversary videos. He went through them quickly. "These prove you've kept an intimate relationship, but they won't necessarily overturn the divorce record," he said. "So he can forge my signature and continue living in my house, making everyone think I'm crazy." Ethan looked up at me. "He can try." The words were light, yet for the first time, I felt I wasn't completely alone. I asked, "Can you take this case?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He closed the file. "The name Ryan Brooks. How long have you heard it?" "Never heard of it before yesterday." "Chloe Bennett's father is Mark Bennett." "I know. He's very wealthy and good at making trouble disappear." I looked at him. "Are you afraid?" Ethan didn't get angry. "I'm cautious." "Then why not take it?" He leaned back in his chair, looking at me for a few seconds. "I looked up Ryan Brooks last night." I froze. "You looked him up? Your wedding video has already spread online," he said. "A woman identifying the groom as her husband at the wedding is hard not to draw attention." My expression froze for a moment. He continued, "Ryan Brooks has a clean credit record. Too clean. There are almost no traces of his life before he was 32. No college loans, no long-term leases, no stable medical records, no old traffic tickets. Like a person who was suddenly created." My heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Your husband isn't lying to you about one thing." He looked at me, his tone calm. "He's been lying to you with his entire life." That night, I returned to the house where Ryan had lived. I didn't turn on the lights. Wearing gloves, I started searching the study. Ryan took the laptop, but he didn't clear the old desktop computer. That computer was rarely used, placed at the bottom of the bookshelf, usually just for backing up photos. I turned on the computer. The password page appeared. I entered our wedding anniversary. Incorrect. I entered his birthday. Incorrect. I entered my mother's birthday. The computer unlocked. I sat there, my fingers frozen. Why is it my mother's birthday? The desktop is clean, with only a few regular folders. Photos, taxes, house, travel. I opened them one by one, all normal content, until I opened the hidden file display. A folder appeared on the screen. The name was a dot. I double-clicked to open it. There were many scanned files. My signature, my passport, my driver's license, my social security documents, my mother's Brookline property documents, insurance beneficiary information, draft trust change application, and a medical authorization document. I opened that file. It wasn't signed yet, but the content was already written. If Grace Walker is deemed to have lost the capacity for independent judgment, Ryan Miller will become her sole medical and financial agent. I felt a chill in my stomach. He didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to control me. He wanted to legally strip me of myself. I kept going further. At the bottom of the folder was a photo. I opened it. In the photo, Ryan was sitting in a private restaurant that he was younger than he is now, wearing a dark blue suit, shaking hands with a man. I knew that man. Chloe's father, Mark Bennett. There's a date in the bottom right corner of the photo. June 12th. 7 years ago. I stared at that date, my breath stopping. That day was the week before I married Ryan. I remember June 12th. 7 years ago. Very clearly. That day, I was at the hospital with my mother for her last treatment evaluation. The doctor said her condition wasn't good. I sat in the hallway with a cup of cold coffee in my hands, feeling like the whole world was collapsing. Ryan called me. He said he was in a meeting at the company and might be late to the hospital. His voice was urgent and guilty. He said, "Grace, I'm sorry. I really can't leave." I comforted him. I said, "It's okay. Work is important. Mom's here with me." That night, he came to the hospital room with flowers. He held my mother's hand and said gently, "Margaret, I'll take care of Grace." My mother didn't smile. She was just watching him. At that time, I thought she was too tired because of illness. Now I understand. She might have seen through something long ago. In the photo, Ryan is shaking hands with Mark Bennett. A week before the wedding, the day of the hospital evaluation, he was supposed to be in a company meeting, but instead, he was sitting with Chloe's father. I sent the photo to Ethan. Less than a minute later, he called. "Where did you find it?" "In Ryan's old computer." "Anything else?" "Many files. My signature, my identification, my mother's property and a medical authorization document. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then Ethan said, "Don't stay there." "Why?" "Because if those files are still on that computer, it means he either forgot or deliberately left them there. Either way, you shouldn't be alone in that house." I looked out the window. The street was quiet. "Do you think he'll come back?" "I think he always knew you'd investigate." My fingers tightened around my phone. "Then I have to investigate even more." Ethan's voice turned cold. "Grace, courage and impulsivity are not the same thing. I've already acted impulsively once," I said. "In the church. I'm very clear now." I hung up the phone. I copied all the files onto 3 external hard drives. One went into my bag, one was hidden in the vent, and one was shipped to Ethan with a courier. Then I cleared the computer's access logs. After doing all this, it was already 2 a.m. I stood in the study when I suddenly heard a soft sound downstairs, like a key hitting the door. I turned off the computer screen and held my breath. The door lock turned. Someone was coming in. I didn't turn on the light. I stood behind the study door, holding a paper cutter. The footsteps were light. The person walked into the living room without calling my name. He wasn't here to talk to me. He was here to confirm something. Footsteps went upstairs. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would break my chest. The study door was pushed open. A beam of light from a phone shone in. I saw Ryan's face. He wasn't wearing a suit but a dark coat. His gaze was cold, completely unlike the husband I knew. He walked to the computer and pressed the power button. I am standing behind the door. His back is to me. The computer starts up. He enters the password, opens that hidden folder. Seeing the file is still there, he seems to sigh in relief. Then he takes out his phone, dials a number. "She probably hasn't noticed yet," he says. I clench the paper cutter. The person on the other end of the phone doesn't say anything. Ryan answers quietly, "She just got lucky at the wedding. She doesn't have the brains for this." My chest feels compressed. So in his mind, I've always been like this. Without brains, easy to control, just knows how to cry. As long as she's scared, she'll retreat to her original position. He continues, "The divorce papers are real. If she causes trouble, well, release her medical records. Everyone will think she's crazy." I turn on my phone's voice recorder. Ryan doesn't notice. His back is still to me, his voice getting quieter. "The Brookline house needs to be handled as soon as possible. The trust also needs to move forward. Mark doesn't want to wait anymore." "Mark." I close my eyes for a moment. Of course, Ryan listened for a while longer, his tone becoming impatient. "Chloe won't have a problem. She wants to win Grace too much. As long as I say I love her, she believes anything." My fingers grew cold little by little. Chloe thought she was the winner. Actually, she was also a pawn. After Ryan hung up the phone, he copied several files into his hard drive. He turned off the computer and turned to leave. Just then, he stopped. His gaze fell behind the door. I knew he saw me. We stared at each other in the dark. He was not surprised. He just smiled lightly. "Grace." I came out from behind the door. The paper cutter in my hand hung by my side. "Did you come back to steal something?" I asked. "This is my home. You just said I don't have a brain." He was silent for a moment. "Did you record it?" I didn't answer. His gaze fell on my bag. I took a step back. Ryan took a step forward. I raised the paper cutter. "Don't come near." He looked at the knife. His mouth corner twitched slightly. "You won't hurt me. Are you sure?" He looked into my eyes. He always used to look at me like this. Gentle, patient, as if all my emotions would be caught by him. Now I finally realized, he wasn't catching me. He was observing me. Observing when I would be weak, when I would doubt myself, when I would give up the initiative to him. Ryan whispered, "Grace, everything that happened today can end. As long as you obey. Obey. Leave Boston. Live somewhere else for a while. It'll give you money. My money." His expression darkened. "Don't push me. You've said it twice tonight." I picked up my phone. "Ryan, why don't you guess what I just recorded?" He finally changed his expression. Just for a moment, but it was enough. I turned and ran. Ryan chased after me from behind. I ran down the stairs, my shoulder hitting the wall, the pain making my vision black. But I didn't stop. I ran out the front door, onto the street. The wind at midnight cut like a knife across my face. I ran to my car. Ryan's voice came from behind. "Grace." I opened the car door, got in, and immediately locked it. Ryan chased to the side of the car, pounding on the window. "Give me your phone." I started the car. He stood in front of the car. I looked at him. He looked back at me. At that moment, I suddenly remembered the wedding 7 years ago. We didn't have a luxurious ceremony. We just got married at the city hall and then went to a small restaurant for dinner. He held my hand and said, "I will never let you face anything alone." Now, he stood in front of my car, trying to take my only evidence. I stepped on the gas. The car moved forward slightly. Ryan immediately dodged. I drove away, not looking back. Half an hour later, I arrived at the bottom of Ethan's office building. He was really there. The lights were on. As I rushed inside, he was printing a document. He saw me and immediately stood up. "Are you hurt?" I touched my shoulder. "I just bumped into something." "Not badly." "Did I ask Ryan here?" I placed my phone in front of him. He said Mark. Ethan didn't ask further. Took the phone directly. and backed up the recording to his computer. We listened to the entire recording. His face grew colder and colder. That's not enough, he said. I know. It can prove he concealed his identity, prove he planned to transfer assets, and prove Mark's name came up, but it can't prove Mark was involved in forging documents. I sat in the chair, staring at the screen. Then keep investigating. Ethan looked at me. Are you ready? Once it starts, Ryan will retaliate. He's already painted you as mentally unstable. Next, hell, make everyone believe it. He's already started. I turned on the phone and handed it to Ethan. Wedding videos had already appeared online. The titles were glaring. A woman had the wedding, claiming the groom was her husband. In the comments, many were calling me crazy. Some said I was jealous of Chloe. Others said I looked like I had a mental problem. My name started sending insulting messages to my work email. Ryan's first step had succeeded. He had pushed me into the spotlight, making me look like a woman who had lost her mind. Ethan closed the page. Don't look that I want to see. I said, I want to know how he destroyed me, so I can return it piece by piece. Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he said, all right. He walked to the whiteboard and wrote down 3 names. Ryan Miller, Ryan Brooks, Mark Bennett. Next, he drew a line between Ryan Miller and Ryan Brooks. Let's prove they're the same person. I can prove it, I said. His scars, his photos, his voice. That's not enough. We need legal evidence. Fingerprints, bank records, communication records, address cross-referencing, vehicle registration, tax documents. The more the better. He then wrote a few more words below Mark Bennett. Investment project, foundation, old debts, Margaret Walker. I saw my mother's name, and my chest tightened. Why did you write my mother? Ethan turned to look at me. Because Ryan is close to you. It might not be coincidental. I didn't say anything. He took out an old news report. 6 years ago, an investment project collapsed. Many small investors lost heavily. A consulting firm is behind the project, related to Mark Bennett's foundation, but due to insufficient evidence, no one was convicted. What did your mother used to do for work? Ethan asked. Accounting. She did accounting for many companies. Did she ever do accounting for Bennett-related companies? I wanted to say no, but as the words were on my tip, I stopped. My mother rarely talked to me about her work. She said some client matters couldn't be told to family. I suddenly remembered a scene. 3 weeks before my mother passed away, I went home to see her. She was sitting at the dining table, spread out with several old documents in front of her. When she saw me enter, she immediately put the documents away. I asked her what they were. She said, some old accounts. I didn't press further at the time. Ethan noticed my expression. What are you thinking? My mother might know about Mark Bennett. Then Ryan getting close to you might be for her. This answer made my throat tighten. I had always thought Ryan loved me. Then later I thought he was just after my house and money. What if from the very beginning, he was really after my mother? Then my 7-year marriage has been a lie from day one. In the morning, we went to the old house in Brookline. This time, Ethan and I went together. I took him up to the attic. There were old boxes left by my mother. I hadn't touched them in many years. I was afraid to open them because everything would remind me that she really wasn't there. Now, I had to open them. We spent 3 hours going through them. Old photos, tax bills, insurance documents, medical records, Christmas cards, shopping receipts, until I found a small key under a ragged sewing box. The key had a yellowing label stuck to it. G stood for Grace. Holding the key, my nose suddenly got watery. It must have been left for me by my mother. We found an iron box in the corner of the attic. The outside of the box had rusted, but the lock was still intact. I inserted the key and turned it gently. It opened. Inside were a few things. An old restaurant receipt, a note with a stranger's phone number, a pearl earring that my mother often wore, and an unsent letter. The envelope read, to Grace. My hands began to tremble. I opened the letter. My mother's handwriting was familiar, clear, and neat. Grace, if you see this letter, it means I didn't get a chance to tell you in person. I don't like Ryan, not because he's not good enough, but because he's too perfect. A real person doesn't have no past. He knows too much about you and appears too quickly when you need help the most. I've looked into him. Ryan Miller doesn't have any issues, but he has another name. I haven't confirmed it completely. I don't want to hurt you, so I want to wait until the evidence is clearer. Don't give him all your assets. Don't sign any documents you haven't read. Don't believe every kind word he says. If something happens to me, contact the number in the box. That person knows Bennett's old debts. Mom loves you. The letter paper trembled in my hands when I finished reading the last word. Tears finally fell down, not because of weakness, but because of regret. My mother reminded me. She reminded me with her last strength, but I didn't listen. Ethan stood beside me, without disturbing me. After a long time, I wiped away my tears. Can this number still be traced? Ethan took the note, glanced at it. We can try. He dialed the number, sent it to a contact. A few minutes later, the other party replied, the number has been disconnected. The registered person was a private investigator named Daniel Price. He died in a car accident 5 years ago. A car accident. I looked up at Ethan. His expression changed too. My mother also died in a car accident. I said. Ethan was silent. The air in the room felt as if it had been sucked out. On the day my mother passed away, it was raining heavily. The police said she was driving fatigued and the car hit the guardrail. I was too sad at the time to doubt anything. Ryan was always by my side, handling all the procedures for me. He told me, Grace, don't look at the accident report. It will only make it hurt more. I really didn't. I handed everything over to him. I clutched the letter. I want the accident report. Ethan nodded. I'll apply for it. Then my phone rang. The screen displayed Ryan's name. I glanced at Ethan. He immediately turned on the recording device. I answered the call. Ryan's voice came through, gentle as if nothing had happened last night. Grace, where are you? I didn't answer. He sighed softly. I know you're angry, but you can't keep running like this. I looked at my mother's letter. Are you worried about me, or worried about what I find? There was a pause on the other end of the phone. Are you with Ethan Cole right now? My heart tightened. He knew. Ryan continued. Grace, he's not helping you. He just wants to use you to take down the Bennett family. I looked at Ethan. Ethan had no expression, but his eyes darkened. You know him well? I asked. Ryan chuckled softly. His brother jumped off a building back then because of a failed investment. He has always believed the Bennett family ruined him. Why do you think he took your case so quickly? I gripped my phone. Ethan's brother. Ethan hadn't told me about this. Ryan's voice was even lower. Go home, Grace. As long as you stay quiet, I won't hurt you. I closed my eyes. He finally said this. Not I didn't hurt you, but I won't hurt you. This meant he knew he could hurt me. It also meant he had already hurt others. I made my voice sound scared. What do you want me to do when I go back? Let's talk. Where? Our house. I won't go there. Ryan was silent for a few seconds. Then go to Harbor Cafe. At 3 o'clock. Alone. I looked at Ethan. He shook his head. But I said, all right. After hanging up, Ethan looked at me. You can't go alone. I won't really go alone. He knows you're recording, so it'll make him think I didn't bring it. Ethan frowned. Grace. I interrupted him. Is what your brother did true? He didn't speak. The answer was obvious. My chest tightened for a moment. Why are you taking my case? Because of me or because of Mark Bennett? Ethan looked at me. At first, it was because Bennett. The words hurt, but I didn't show it. I didn't have the strength to collapse over another man's lies anymore. At least you're telling the truth now. Grace, I'm not lying to you. I just haven't told you everything yet. Ryan used to say that too. Ethan's expression grew harsh. I picked up my bag. From now on, I don't trust anyone, including you. He didn't stop me. He just said, it'll be nearby. At 3 in the afternoon, I went to Harbor Cafe. It was a small cafe near the sea. Through the glass window, I could see the grayish-blue water. There weren't many people inside, making it perfect for talking secrets. Ryan was already there. He was sitting in the corner, wearing a dark coat, with a cup of black coffee in front of him that he saw me and stood up. This action felt too familiar. Every time we went on a date in the past, he would stand up first to pull out my chair. It was the same today. I sat down without touching the back of the chair he had pulled out. Ryan looked at my bag. Did you bring a recorder? No. He smiled. What about your phone? I placed my phone on the table and pushed it to him. He picked it up, checked it, turned it off, and put it in his pocket. Now we can talk. I looked at him. What do you want to talk about? I want to give you a choice. Speak. Leave Boston. Stop investigating. I'll handle the house. And I'll give you some money. You go to California, or Seattle, or anywhere. Start over. You sound very generous. I don't want to ruin you. I smiled. You already ruined me. Ryan's expression softened. He reached out to touch my hand. I avoided it. He whispered, Grace, I'm not completely without feelings for you. That statement almost made me laugh. Should I thank you? You don't understand. I did have a reason for approaching you initially, but we've been together for 7 years. 7 years isn't fake. What is fake then? I asked. Your name, your divorce papers, your medical records, or your love for Chloe. Ryan's gaze shifted. Chloe has nothing to do with this. She thought you loved her. She believes what she wants to believe. I stared at him, just like I used to. Ryan didn't deny it. A waiter passed by, delivering coffee to the table next door. The cup landed on the table with a soft clink. Ryan lowered his voice. Grace, don't force me to make those medical records public. You know how the public will think. The wedding video is already bad enough. As long as I release a few more documents, your work, your reputation, and your life will be finished. I looked into his eyes. This is what you call not wanting to ruin me. This is a warning. Mark Bennett made you warn me. Ryan's fingers paused. I knew I asked the right question. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze turning cold. Don't mention Mark. Why? Because you've known each other for 7 years. His pupils constricted slightly, quickly, but I saw it. What did you find? I didn't answer. Ryan's voice lowered. Grace, hand over what you found. What? The things left behind by your mother. My heart rate shot up. He really knew. I feigned confusion. The only thing left behind by my mother is the house. Ryan stared at me, judging if I was lying. A few seconds later, he said, Margaret shouldn't have interfered back then. The air froze at that moment. I looked at him. My fingers gently tapped the earring under the table. That's not an ordinary earring. That's a miniature recording device Ethan had prepared. Ryan thought he took my phone, So he took my evidence. He was wrong. I made my voice tremble, as if I were truly scared. What do you mean? What happened to my mom? Ryan seemed to realize he had said too much. He stood up. This conversation is over. I immediately grabbed his sleeve. Ryan, please tell me, is my mom's accident related to you? He looked down at my hand. There was no love in his eyes, nor any pity, only boredom. You're still the same, he said. Just cry a little, and you think everyone will feel sorry for you. I let go of his sleeve. He leaned close to me, his voice so low it could almost only be heard by me. Go home. Sign the papers. Don't let me down again. Then he turned and left. I sat there until his figure disappeared around the corner. A few minutes later, Ethan walked into the cafe. He sat across from me. Did you record it? I took off my earrings and placed them on the table. Yes, I recorded it. Ethan took it to connect the device. Ryan's voice came from inside. Clear, indifferent. Margaret shouldn't have interfered back then. I looked out the window at the sea. 7 years ago, I thought Ryan was the salvation sent by heaven at my most painful moment. Now I finally understand. He's not salvation. He's the one sent to silence people. Ethan's expression grew heavy after listening to the recording. This is important. But not enough. Then let him say more. Hell, be more careful. No. I looked at him. Hell, be more urgent. Ethan looked up at me. I repeated what Ryan just said. He told me to go home and sign some documents. It means they haven't finished their last step. Trustee change. Ethan said. I nodded. And Mark. Bennett's dinner. Ryan mentioned it in the recording. Mark would host a private dinner next week, announcing Ryan's official entry into the Bennett Family Foundation. That's not an ordinary dinner party. That's the new identity Ryan wants. As soon as he enters the Bennett Family Foundation, he can clean up the name Ryan Brooks. As soon as he gets the thing left by my mother, he can clear Mark's old debts. As soon as I'm proven mentally unstable, my property, my testimony, my resistance, all of it will become worthless. They don't just want my marriage. They want my life. I stand up. I'm going to that dinner party. Ethan frowns. You weren't invited. Chloe was. She won't help you. She will. How can you be sure? I look out the window. Across the street, a black car is parked there. The window isn't fully rolled up. I see Chloe sitting in the back. She's wearing sunglasses, her face pale, staring intently in the direction Ryan is leaving. She's following him. She's already starting to doubt him. I pick up my bag. Because Ryan made a mistake. What error? He made two women he had deceived see each other on the same day. I walked out of the cafe. The sea breeze was cold. Chloe's car was still there. I walked over, knocked on the window. The window slowly rolled down. Chloe took off her sunglasses, her eyes red. She looked at me, her voice hoarse. What did you say to him just now? I bent down, looking at her. I asked him if my mother's death had anything to do with him. Chloe's face turned pale instantly. I stared at her. Now it's your turn to tell me. Chloe, what do you actually know? She opened her mouth. But before she could speak, my phone suddenly rang. It was a text from a stranger. There was only one photo. The photo showed the attic of my mother's old house. The iron box was open. It was empty. Below the text, there was another sentence. Grace, the things your mother hid are not just in this box. I held the phone, feeling the blood in me grow cold bit by bit. A few seconds later, a second text came in. Want to know what she really left behind? Come alone at 10 o'clock tonight. I stared at the two texts, my palms getting cold. In the first photo was the attic of my mother's old house. The iron box was opened. It was empty. The letter, the old receipt, the phone number, all were gone. I clearly took the originals with me. So this photo wasn't taken now. Someone had been in that room long before I found the iron box. I slowly looked up at Chloe. She was sitting in the car, looking even paler than before. Who sent this to you? She asked. I don't know. She reached for my phone. I dodged. Answer my question first. I said. What do you actually know? Chloe's lips trembled. She really seemed scared. Not the carefully crafted tears from the wedding. This time, her fear was genuine. I don't know about your mother, she said. I swear. Grace, I really don't know. Then what do you know about Ryan? She didn't speak. I opened the car door and sat in the back seat. Chloe immediately shifted to the side. Drive, I said to the driver. The driver looked at Chloe. Chloe. Boston. Chloe. Ryan. Chloe froze. I didn't spare her any mercy. You've been to my house. You've seen Ryan's clothes. You've seen our travel plans on the fridge. You've heard me talk about my life with him. You don't know. You're just pretending you don't. She lowered her head. After a long while, she whispered. Yes, that word still stung my chest a little. I thought I wouldn't be hurt by her anymore. But 12 years of friendship wouldn't disappear just because of a word like betrayal. It would rot. It would stink. And it would leave a deep wound. When? I asked. Chloe looked up at me. 3 months ago. You knew 3 months ago. She nodded. I went to his apartment to see him. The address I was given was in New York. But that day I found another ticket to Boston. I followed him. Saw him enter your house. She started shaking as she spoke. I waited for 3 hours. He didn't come out. The next morning, I saw you take him out. You tied his tie for him. He kissed you. I closed my eyes for a moment. I remember that day. Ryan said he was going to meet a client. I tied his tie for him. He kissed me. After he left, Chloe was watching from across the street. And then, I confronted him. Chloe said, he said you were in a bad mood. He said you couldn't accept the divorce. He said if he completely left you, you would hurt yourself. Did you believe him? Chloe looked at me, her eyes red. I wanted to believe. She finally said the truth. I scoffed. So that way, you're not the one who stole my husband. You're just saving a man being bothered by his ex-wife. Chloe's face turned pale. Grace, I know I was wrong. You weren't wrong. I said, you chose the lie that benefits you. Her tears fell. I didn't comfort her. She walked to the bar, picked up a bottle of water. Her hands trembling almost too much to open the cap. Ryan isn't an ordinary person, she said. He has many phones. I've seen 3. He answers calls with different names. Once, I heard him talking to my father. My eyes turned cold. What did he say? I only heard one sentence. Chloe looked at me. He said, Grace will be useless soon. The room was silent. I asked word by word. When? 2 days before the wedding. My heart sank. 2 days before the wedding. Ryan was already preparing to get rid of me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Chloe laughed hysterically. Because I was afraid you would take him back. I looked at her and suddenly felt absurd. At this point, what she feared most was still not Ryan the demon, but me winning. Chloe, you're truly pathetic. She looked up at me. Without any argument. I know. Just then, my phone vibrated again. Still the same unknown number. 10 o'clock tonight. Pier 17. Come alone. Otherwise, you'll never know what Margaret left behind. Pier 17. The dock. I showed Chloe the message. Her expression changed. You can't go. Why? Ryan has a warehouse at the dock. I stared at her. You know, he said it was for storing foundation supplies. She said, I've been there once. There were no supplies. Only many filing cabinets. Where's the key? Chloe hesitated. I looked at her. Are you going to help me, or continue helping him? She bit her lip and turned into the bedroom. A few minutes later, she took out a key card. He gave this to me. He thought I didn't know the warehouse password. I took the key card. What's the password? 0612. I froze. June 12th. The day Ryan and Mark met. The week before I married Ryan. Chloe saw the expression on my face. What's the problem with this date? That was the day they started working together. I put the key card in my bag and prepared to leave. Chloe grabbed my hand. Grace, I'm going with you. No, I can help you. I don't trust you right now. Her eyes dimmed. Then do you trust Ethan? I stopped. She whispered. Ryan was telling the truth. Ethan approached you for his brother. His brother didn't die from jumping off a building. He died after the Bennett investment case. Ethan has always wanted Mark to pay for it. I turned to look at her. How do you know? My father mentioned him. Chloe said. He said Ethan Cole is a dog that doesn't let go once it bites. She gave a bitter smile. I used to think that was a cruel thing to say. Now I hope he really can bite them. I didn't say anything. Chloe let go of me. I know you hate me. You should hate me. But I also wonder, what does Ryan really think of me? I looked at her. He sees you as a ticket. She flinched. I continued. He doesn't want you. He wants Bennett's money, status, and foundation. He married you to enter your father's world. Chloe's eyes reddened. I know, she said. But hearing you say it still hurts. I looked at her for a few seconds. Then I said, tonight you don't go to the dock. You do something else. She looked up. What? Go back to Ryan. Pretend you still love him. Pretend you believe him. Then steal his phone. Chloe paled. He'll find out. Then see if you want to win once. She was silent. When I reached the door, she suddenly asked, Grace, if I help you, will you forgive me? I didn't turn back. No. The room was quiet. I gripped the doorknob, my voice flat. But I'll admit, you finally did one right thing. At 9:30, I arrived near Pier 17. Ethan was in the passenger seat. He knew I'd come, so he stopped me beforehand. I didn't ask how he knew. Ryan could track me. Ethan could too. I didn't want to waste my emotions on these things. You shouldn't have come, he said. You've said that many times. This could be a trap. Of course, it's a trap. I looked at the warehouse at the end of the dock. But there might also be evidence in the trap. Ethan paused. About my brother. I should have told you earlier. Yes, his name is Noah Cole. Ethan's voice lowered. He didn't commit suicide. He discovered evidence of money laundering at the Bennett Foundation. The day before he died, he called me, saying he had the key document. The next day, he fell from the rooftop of the office building. I looked at him. What did the police say? He had a mental breakdown after his investment failed. Like my mother. Yes. The car fell silent. I suddenly realized that we were both standing on the ruins of the same lie. The difference was, he knew he was in the ruins long ago, and I had just fallen into them. Ethan, I said, I understand you want to use me against Mark, but from now on, everything must be told to me. He looked at me. Okay, don't make decisions for me. Okay, if I find out you're hiding things from me again, I'll leave on my own. He nodded. I know. I opened the car door. Then let's start. We circled to the back door of the warehouse. Chloe's access card works. The password is also correct. 0612. The door lock clicks softly. The warehouse is dark. The air filled with dust and the smell of sea salt. A ship's horn is heard in the distance. Ethan turns on the flashlight. It's filled with boxes. I walk closer and see labels of different years on the boxes. 2017, 2018, 2019. Bennett Foundation. Walker, Brooks, Miller. My breath tightens. They put M.E. Ryan's two identities. And the Bennett Foundation documents all here. Ethan opens a box labeled Walker. Inside are my mother's records, her bank statements, her client list, copies of her old ledgers, and her insurance documents after the car accident. I pick up an accident report. I've never seen this report before. A sec. Tie-in is highlighted in it. The vehicle's braking system shows abnormal wear, ruling out human intervention. My fingers start to tremble. Ryan told me back then that the accident was simple. Fatigue driving, slippery roads in the rain. Don't look anymore. Don't ask anymore. But the report said they couldn't rule out human intervention. I felt a wave of dizziness. Ethan steadied my arm. Grace. I took a deep breath. Keep looking. We opened the second box. There were many photos inside. Photos of Ryan visiting my mother's hospital room. Photos of Ryan meeting Mark in the hospital parking lot. Photos of Ryan leaving my mother's old house with a file folder. The backs of the photos had dates. The day before my mother's car accident. I stared at those photos, and the last remnants of Ryan in my mind finally died. He wasn't just lying to me. He was really involved in my mother's death. Just then, I heard car sounds outside the warehouse. Ethan immediately turned off the flashlight. I stuffed several key documents into my bag. Someone was talking outside. It was Ryan's voice. Is she here? Another man answered. She wasn't seen. Ryan said coldly. She will come. She was too curious about what Margaret had done. My body froze. Ethan pulled me behind the box. The warehouse door opened. The lights came on. Through the gap in the box, I saw Ryan and two men walking in. Ryan was holding a gun. At that moment, my breath almost stopped. He wasn't here to negotiate. He was here to clean up the scene. Ryan walked to the box marked with Walker's name. The box was already open. His expression changed instantly. She was here. One man asked, "What do we do?" Ryan's voice was terrifyingly cold. "Burn it down." My heart sank. The warehouse was full of boxes. If it caught fire, we wouldn't have an exit. Ethan grabbed my wrist, signaling with his eyes to the back door. We backed up slowly, but I stepped on a piece of wood. A soft noise. Ryan turned sharply. "Who's there?" Ethan pushed me back. "Run." We sprinted to the back door. Ryan immediately gave chase. Gunshots rang out that a bullet hit the iron rack. Sparks flying. ID never heard a real gunshot. It was duller, closer, and more chilling than in movies. Ethan pulled open the back door and shoved me out. We ran along the dock. Sea wind gushed into my throat, like a knife. Ryan yelled from behind, "Grace." I didn't turn around. At the end of the dock, Ethan's car was parked. We sprinted to it. Ethan started the car. Ryan chased to the roadside. Gun raised. The car shot forward violently. The rear window shattered. Glass fell onto the back seat like rain. I lowered my head, my heart pounding almost to explode. Ethan drove until near the police station before stopping. I still clutched my mother's accident report and photos tightly in my hands. Ethan looked at me. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. He checked my arms and face, relieved to find no blood. My phone vibrated. It was Chloe. She sent a photo. I in the photo. It was Ryan's other phone. Below was a line of text. I got it, but there was something even more terrifying inside. Ryan wasn't the most terrifying person. I was about to reply when a second message came in. It was my father. Then the call disconnected. I called back. No one answered. I called again. Phone off. A chill ran down my spine. Chloe went missing. After Chloe went missing, I didn't sleep. Ethan didn't either. We divided the materials we took from the warehouse into 3 parts. 1 part for the police. 1 part for Ethan's media contacts. 1 part uploaded to an encrypted cloud drive, set to send automatically at a scheduled time. If something happened to me, all the evidence would be automatically sent to the court, the media, and a few investigative journalists. This was Ethan's suggestion. I accepted it. I used to always think safety came from others, from my husband, from my friends, from a so-called complete family. Now I know safety comes from backups, from evidence, from plans, from no longer handing over my life to anyone else. The next day at noon, Chloe finally contacted me. She didn't call, just sent a text. At 8 tonight. Grand ballroom on the top floor of Bennett Hotel. Ryan will be announced as the new member of the foundation. My phone was taken. This is the last message I can send. Don't trust my father. Attached was a photo. The photo was an invitation to the banquet. Chloe's name was still on it. Ryan Brooks Nom. E was also on it. Mark Bennett will announce the new strategic advisor of the family foundation at the banquet. I showed the photo to Ethan. He said, "This is their formal cutting ceremony." What does that mean? If Ryan successfully joins the foundation, he won't just be Mark's secret helper anymore. He'll have a clean, public, and upscale new identity. By then, Ryan Brooks will be more real than Ryan Miller. And Grace Walker. Ethan looked at me. She'll become the woman who, as her ex-husband, seems mentally unstable and tries to ruin the Bennett family's reputation. I laughed. They really thought this through, Ethan said. You don't have to go. I'm going. We can hand over the evidence to the police. The police are too slow. Mark is too good at dragging his feet. I looked out the window. They chose to give Ryan a new identity at the banquet. So he'll tear that identity apart at the banquet. Ethan was silent. You know this will be dangerous. I know. Ryan has already shot. So I won't see him as my husband anymore. When I said that, there was no pain in my heart. Only cold. At 7:50 p.m. I arrived at Bennett Hotel. It was a high-end hotel in New York. The top-floor banquet hall was brightly lit. As the elevator door opened, I heard the sound of piano music and glasses clinking. I was wearing a black long dress, not for beauty, but to make myself look like a knife. Ethan didn't come in with me. He was near the control room, with his media friends and a willing technician. The police were also nearby. They need more direct evidence, especially Mark's recording. When I walked into the banquet hall, many people looked at me. Someone recognized me. That's the woman from the wedding. Why is she here? Isn't she Ryan's ex-wife? She doesn't look like a madwoman. I heard these voices. I didn't stop. Ryan was standing in the center of the banquet hall. He was wearing a black suit. His hair was neatly combed, and he was holding a champagne glass. When he saw me, his smile froze for a moment. Soon, he added his gentleness. He walked over, like a polite host. Grace, you shouldn't be here. I looked at him. You always say that. He lowered his voice. Leave here. Why? Afraid he'll go mad. His gaze darkened. Don't force me to deal with you here. How do you want to deal with me? I asked softly. Like how you dealt with my mother. His fingers tightened. Just then, Mark Bennett walked over. He looked to be around 60, with silver gray hair, dressed neatly in a suit, and carried the composed air common among successful men. When he looked at me, it was as if he were inspecting a stain that shouldn't be at the party. Miss Walker, he said, I don't think this is the place for you. I don't think so either. I said, but Chloe invited me. Mark's eyes flickered. Chloe isn't feeling well tonight, so she won't be here. Is that so? I looked at Ryan. She wasn't feeling well last night either. Ryan's expression grew colder. Mark remained calm. Did you come today to cause more trouble? No. I picked up a glass of champagne. I'm here to congratulate Ryan. Ryan stared at me. What are you congratulating me on? Congratulating you for finally finding a surname more useful than mine. A few people around overheard and their expressions became subtle. Ryan moved closer to me and whispered, only for us to hear. Grace, what you have won't save you. I smiled. How do you know what I got? His expression changed. I knew he realized he had said something wrong again. I didn't press him further. The goal for tonight wasn't to break Ryan down. It was to get Mark to talk. I bypassed Ryan and walked toward the edge of the banquet hall. According to Chloe's message, she was in a small room next to the rooftop lounge. As I reached the hallway, a security guard stopped me. Ladies and gentlemen, this area is not open to the public. Just as I was about to speak, a voice came from behind me. She's with me. Ethan walked over. He was wearing a black uniform as a service staff member, carrying a tray. I almost didn't recognize him. The security guard glanced at him. Who is she? Mr. Bennett requested that we deliver drinks to the private lounge, Ethan said in a calm tone. The security guard looked at the drinks on the tray. He didn't think much of it and stepped aside. We walked down the hallway. Around the corner, Ethan set down the tray and whispered, Chloe is in the third room. How do you know? She sent us her location from Ryan's phone. Only for 3 seconds. But that was enough. We walked to the door of the third room. The door was locked from the outside. Ethan took out a card and quickly opened it. As soon as the door opened, Chloe was sitting inside. She had a wound on her lip and red marks on her wrist from being tied up. She saw me and her tears suddenly streamed down. Grace. I walked over and untied the rope around her hands. Who did this? Her voice trembled. My father. Although I had already guessed, hearing her say it out loud still chilled me to the core. Chloe grabbed my hand. I stole Ryan's phone. There's a recording on it. I heard my father and Ryan talking. They were talking about Margaret's accident. They were talking about Noah Cole. They said if you don't shut up, they'll make you like them. Ethan's expression changed instantly. Where's the phone? Chloe took out a black phone from between the sofa cushions. I hid it. Ethan took the phone and quickly connected it to a device to copy the data. I looked at Chloe. Why did your father lock you up? She smiled bitterly. Because I asked him if Ryan had been using me all along. How did he say it? Chloe's tears fell. He said, the Bennett family's daughter doesn't need love, just a useful marriage. I didn't speak. At this moment, I didn't forgive her, but I saw her cage. She thought she stole my happiness. Actually, she was just moving from one lie to another. Ethan stared at the computer, his voice tight. I found it. He played a recording. First Ryan's voice. Grace found Margaret's letter. Then Mark. She's just as troublesome as her mother. Ryan said, I can use a psychological evaluation to keep her in check. Mark sneered. Back then, Margaret threatened me with the ledger. I gave her a chance. She didn't take it. Noah Cole didn't take it either. You know the result. My blood froze. Ethan's hand stopped over the keyboard. His brother's name came out of Mark's mouth. It wasn't a guess. It was an admission. The recording continued. Ryan asked, what if Grace doesn't listen either? Mark's voice was very soft. Then let her be the third accident. The room was deathly silent. Chloe covered her mouth, her face ashen. Ethan's eyes reddened, but he didn't lose control. He finished copying the recording and uploaded it to the cloud. Enough, he said. No, I said. Not yet. He looked at me. I looked toward the banquet hall. I want them to hear it themselves in front of everyone. 8:45. Mark Bennett stepped onto the main stage. The banquet hall lights dimmed. The large screen lit up. He stood under the lights. Like a respected philanthropist. My friends, thank you for coming here tonight, he said. The Bennett Foundation has been dedicated to helping more families rebuild their lives for the past 30 years. Tonight, I am honored to introduce a new partner. Ryan stood in the audience, smiling as he adjusted his cuffs. Everyone looked at him. Mark continued. He is smart, reliable, and visionary. He is about to become our foundation's strategic advisor. He is Ryan Brooks. Cheers erupted. Ryan walked to the stage. He took the microphone. Looking gentle and composed, I stood at the back of the crowd, watching him. 7 years ago, he was also standing in the city hall watching me. He said he would marry me, protect me, and stay with me until the end. Now, with the same face, he was ready to step into another life. Ryan spoke. Thank you, Mark. It's an honor to be part of the Bennett family. Suddenly, the large screen flickered. Ryan's words stopped. The foundation's promotional video that was on the screen disappeared. In its place were 2 ID photos. Left, Ryan Miller. Right, Ryan Brooks. Below the photos, the same person. 2 identities. 2 scams. The banquet hall fell silent. Ryan's face changed. Mark suddenly looked towards the control room. The screen continued to play. Ryan Miller and Grace Walker's marriage record. Ryan Brooks and Chloe Bennett's wedding invitation. Ryan used bank records with diff. Parent identification documents, my forged divorce documents, my signature scan, a fake psychological evaluation report, medical authorization letter, my mother's accident report, Noah Cole's newspaper clipping, Pier 17 warehouse photo. The crowd began to stir. What is this? Wow, Ryan Brooks is using a fake identity. Does Mark know? Ryan rushed to the backstage. 2 security guards stopped him. Not Mark's people. It was Ethan's people. Mark still stood on the stage, looking displeased, but he wanted to stay calm. Please stay calm, he said. This is a malicious attack. I walked out from the back of the crowd. Everyone looked at me. I walked onto the stage, picked up another microphone. Mr. Mark Bennett said this is a malicious attack. I looked at the audience. Then let's hear his voice. The big screen went dark for a moment. The recording started playing. Mark's voice was clearly heard throughout the banquet hall. When Margaret held the ledger to 3:10 me back then, I gave her a chance. She didn't listen. Noah Cole didn't listen either. You know the result. The audience fell silent. Ethan stood at the control room door, pale but with steady eyes. The recording continued. What if Grace didn't listen too? Then let her be the 3rd accident. Someone screamed. Chloe walked onto the stage. The injuries on her face were visible. She took my microphone and looked at her father. Is this your voice? Mark stared at her. Chloe, come down. Answer me. Her voice trembled but didn't waver. Is this your voice? Mark's face turned completely cold. You don't know what you're doing. Chloe smiled as tears fell. I finally know. Ryan suddenly broke free from the security guard and rushed onto the stage. He pointed at me. She's crazy. All of this is fake. She wanted to ruin me from the wedding day. I looked at him. You're saying I'm crazy. He gasped for breath. You have a mental health record. You mean this? The screen switched. The doctor's photo from that psychological clinic appeared. Next to it were his billing records. The payment account was from a company controlled by Ryan Brooks. I said, this doctor has admitted to the police that he has never met me. The evaluation report was forged after Ryan provided the materials. Ryan's face turned slightly pale. I continued. You also said that we are divorced. A signature verification report appeared on the screen. Experts preliminarily determined that the signature on the divorce documents was from a scanned copy, not signed in person. Ryan rushed towards me. Shut up. I didn't back down. You said in the church that you didn't know me. I raised my left hand. The ring was still there. But you forgot. We were married for 7 years. And we left behind more than just documents. There were bills, photos, insurance, travel records, neighbor testimonies, and the surveillance footage of you coming home every night. Videos appear on the screen. Ryan enters my house. Ryan shops with me. Ryan hugs me on our anniversary. Ryan comes back to my house the night before the wedding. The murmurs of the crowd grow louder. Ryan looks at the screen, as if finally realizing he has been stripped bare. He turns to look at Mark. You said you would handle it. Mark doesn't look at him. He picks up the microphone, his voice frighteningly calm. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Brooks has deceived me and my family. I will cooperate with the investigation. Ryan freezes. He can't believe it. Are you going to throw me out? Mark looks at him, his eyes devoid of warmth. I don't know who you are. This was a phrase Ryan once said to me in church. Now, Mark returns it to him unchanged. Ryan's face contorts. He laughs. The laugh is low, growing colder. You don't know who I am. He looks at Mark. Mark, you think I don't have backups? Mark's expression finally changes. Ryan turned and rushed toward the side door. The police had already entered. The banquet hall was in chaos. The lights suddenly went out. Darkness fell. Screams erupted. Someone fell. Glasses shattered. Tables and chairs were knocked over. Ethan rushed onto the stag. Grabbed my hand. Come with me. Chloe shouted in the dark. I'm here. Ethan pulled us toward the exit. A few seconds later, the backup lights came on. Ryan was gone. Mark was pinned down by 2 police officers. He was still talking, his voice calm, trying to explain, but no one believed him anymore. My phone vibrated. A stranger. I opened it. Grace, I have the last thing your mother left. I stood in the hallway. My heart dropped. A second message came quickly. Someone is coming to Margaret's old house. Otherwise, I'll burn it down. Ryan. He ran to my mother's house. This time, I'm not going alone. The past version of me would have, the past Grace would be dragged along by the words, the last things left by the mother. She would be afraid, soft-hearted, and feel she had to personally save everything. She would believe Ryan still had some humanity, but that Grace was already dead at Chloe's wedding. I showed Ethan my phone. He said, the police are already looking for Ryan. He'll escape. I know. He'll destroy the evidence. Or maybe destroy you. I looked at him. So we go first. Ethan didn't try to dissuade me from going. He just nodded. Follow the plan. We took separate actions. Ethan contacted the police. Chloe stayed at the hotel to give a statement. She wanted to go with me, but I refused. She stood outside the banquet hall, her face with tears and also traces of blood. Grace, she said, I'm sorry. I looked at her. This apology came too late. Late enough that it couldn't fix anything. Chloe, I won't forgive you. She lowered her head that I continued to say, but you didn't escape tonight. I'll remember that. She cried. I didn't look at her again. I got into Ethan's car and drove straight to Brookline. On the way, Ethan received a call. He put it on speaker. It was Olivia Brooks, Ryan's sister. I had only met Olivia twice. Once after I got married to Ryan, once at my mother's funeral. She was always very quiet, like someone hiding in the shadows. Her voice sounded urgent on the phone. Ryan contacted me. Ethan glanced at me. I said, put it on speaker. Olivia continued. He said he's leaving the U.S. He wants me to send him the safe deposit box code. What safe deposit box? Ethan asked. Margaret Walker's safe deposit box. I held my breath. Do you know my mother's safe deposit box? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Olivia whispered, Grace, I'm sorry. I gripped the phone. Don't say sorry. Say the facts. Olivia's voice trembled. I knew Ryan had 2 identities long ago. I also knew he approached you wasn't by accident. But I didn't know Margaret would die. I really didn't know. I closed my eyes. Another person who knew. My life was like a house. Every time I opened a door, there stood a betrayer. How much do you know? I asked. Ryan was originally just helping Mark find a ledger. Olivia said. Margaret had early money laundering records for Bennett Company. Ryan approached you to get close to her. Later, he found out your mother left some assets to you, so he changed his plans. So he married me. Yes. My chest felt like it was being hit by a heavy hammer, even though I had already guessed. Hearing it still hurt. Olivia choked up and said, Margaret found out. She hired private investigator Daniel Price. Ryan was very scared. He told Mark. On the day of the car accident, I heard Ryan and Mark on the phone. Mark said, the problem is solved. The car was terrifyingly quiet. Ethan's fingers gripped the steering wheel. I asked, where's Noah Cole? Olivia whispered. The same person arranged it. Ethan's face turned pale instantly. He didn't speak, but I saw his jaw tighten. Olivia continued. Ryan didn't directly do it, but he's been helping Mark clean up evidence. He kept a backup to threaten Mark one day. Where's the backup? Margaret's old house. Olivia said. Part of it is in her safe. The rest is on Ryan. The password. Olivia gave a string of numbers. When I heard it, my chest ached violently. That was my birthday. Ryan used my birthday to lock the evidence left by my mother. He really knew how to make me sick. Before hanging up, Olivia whispered, Grace, if you see him, don't believe him when he cries. I looked out the car window. When we arrived in Brookline, the police cars hadn't arrived yet. Ethan parked the car at the corner. The old house of my mother was lit. The living room curtains are not drawn tight. I see a shadow moving inside. Ryan. Ethan grabs me. The police will be here in 3 minutes. He can burn everything in 3 minutes. Grace. I at him. I'm not going in there to die. I'll let him speak for himself. Ethan stares at me for a few seconds, then hands me a small recorder. There's a backup in the earring too. I know. Stay on the line. Okay. If he gets close to you, leave immediately. I look at him. This time, he doesn't try to control me. He just gives me the choice. I push open the car door and get out. The night breeze is cold. I've walked this street countless times. When I was a child, I held my mother's hand, buying bread from the small shop at the corner. Later, I helped her walk slowly because she was weak after being sick. And later, I stood at the door with Ryan, him hugging my shoulder, saying he would protect this home for me. Lies are terrible that it will be dressed in the clothes of memories. making you unable to recognize it for a long time. I walked to the door and pushed it open. Ryan was sitting in the living room. He was holding a lighter in his hand. An old safe was placed on the coffee table. Scattered around it were several documents and a letter. My heart skipped a beat. The paw of the letter was yellowed. It was my mother's handwriting. Ryan looked up at me. He smiled. I knew you would come. You should also know, I wouldn't come alone. His smile faded slightly. Ethan is outside. The police are almost here. Ryan glanced out the window. Before they arrive, I can burn these. He picked up the letter. I forced myself not to rush forward. What do you want? Ryan stood up. He looked much more disheveled. The collar of his shirt was wrinkled, and his hair was messy, but his eyes remained calm. That was the real him. Not the gentle husband. Not the perfect fiancé. Not the victim, someone who treats others as tools. I'm leaving here, he said. Help me get the money Mark left in his overseas account. Then I'll give it to you. I almost laughed. You still want to trade. You want the truth, he said. I have it. I already know enough. No, you don't. Ryan slowly walked closer to the coffee table. Your mother left you something before she died. Mark looked for 7 years and couldn't find it. I found it. My breath stopped. He saw my reaction and smiled. See, you still care. That was my mother. It's also your weakness. I looked at him. Have you ever loved me, even for a second? He hesitated. Maybe he didn't expect me to ask this. After a few seconds, he said, yes. I didn't say anything. He continued. At first, no. Then you were just a target. You were young, lonely, and trusted others too quickly. It was easy to get close to you. The words cut like a knife, but I didn't move. The recorder was still running. Ryan thought he was hurting me. Actually, he was writing his own confession with his own hands. He walked to the window, looking outside. Later, I really got used to you. You're not good at cooking, but you were always serious every time. You cry when watching movies. You like to stick your feet to my legs when sleeping. 7 years. Grace. People can't be completely without feelings. I looked at him. Then why did you still destroy me? His expression turned cold. Because feelings can't let me live. You could have told me the truth. And then, let you meddle like Margaret. My heart tightened. He finally mentioned his mother. What did my mom find? Ryan picked up a photo on the coffee table. In the photo, his mother stood at the door of an old house, holding a file folder. She found Mark and me. She also found part of the evidence left by Noah Cole. She was ready to give it to Daniel Price. So you told Mark. Ryan didn't deny it. I just told him that she wanted to see the investigator. Then she died. Ryan's eyes flickered. It wasn't me. But you know what happens? He was silent. This silence was clearer than an admission. I took a step forward. You took her files. Yes. You altered my trust. Yes. You forged the divorce papers. Yes. You forged my mental health records. Ryan looked at me. That was the easiest part. My heart was cold as ice. Why? Because no one believes a woman having an emotional breakdown. He said, as long as she cries, as long as she screams, as long as she loses control at the wedding, everyone automatically sides with the decent man. I looked at him and suddenly laughed. He frowned. Why are you laughing? I'm laughing because you know this world so well. I raised my eyes. But you don't know me. A distant siren was heard outside. Ryan's expression changed. He immediately grabbed the files and the lighter. Get back, it's too late. Grace. He was truly panicked for the first time. I looked at him. You said you didn't know me in church. Now you'd better remember my name. Ryan stared at me fiercely. You think you won? I don't think so. I said, I know. He suddenly lit the lighter and moved it close to the letter. My heart almost stopped, just as the flame touched the edge of the paper. The back door of the living room was knocked open. Ethan rushed in. Ryan turned around, drew out a gun. I grabbed a vase from the table and threw it at him. The vase hit his wrist. The gun fell to the ground. Ethan rushed forward and pinned Ryan down. Ryan struggled wildly, his eyes bloodshot. Let me go. The police rushed in. Several officers pinned Ryan down and put handcuffs on him. He was still looking at me. That look I would remember forever. Not love, not hate. The anger of a hunter who discovered his prey had escaped the cage. I walked over and picked up the letter from the floor. The edges the paper were slightly singed by the fire, but the content was still there. My hands were shaking badly. Ethan stood beside me. Are you okay? I didn't answer. I opened the letter. My mother's handwriting appeared before me. Grace, if you are reading this letter, it means you have reached the final step. I hope you never have to read it. But if you do, I hope it can save you. Ryan's approach to you was not accidental. I have confirmed that he is in contact with Mark Bennett. I have also confirmed that Bennett's early accounts had problems. I divided the evidence into 3 parts. The first part 1 gave to Daniel. The second part 1 hid in the safe in this house. The third part I put in an account that only you can access. Grace, don't hate yourself. People believe in gentleness at their most vulnerable. This is not your fault. The fault lies with those who exploit your pain. I didn't put all the inheritance into a trust. What Ryan could touch was just a small part. What truly belongs to you, I have protected separately in your name. You own no one. Don't sacrifice yourself for a man. Don't doubt yourself for a relationship. Don't call betrayal misunderstanding. You are my daughter. You can start over. Mom loves you. Will always love you. I read until the end. Finally cried. This time, I didn't hold back. I crouched on the ground, holding that letter, crying until I couldn't speak. Not because Ryan, not because Chloe, not because those lies, because I finally heard my mother's last voice. She didn't blame me. She still wanted to protect me even at the most dangerous time. Ryan paused when he was taken out. He looked at me, suddenly said, "Grace, I really loved you." I wiped away my tears and stood up. "You didn't love me." He stared at me. I walked closer, my voice very soft. "You loved, was the way I believed you." His expression froze. The police took him away. This time, he didn't turn back. Mark Bennett was formally arrested the next morning. Ryan submitted the backup materials he had kept for years, trying to trade for a reduction in sentence. Mark also immediately bit back at Ryan, saying everything was Ryan's own decision. They started biting each other. It was ugly. It was also beautiful. Chloe testified publicly. She admitted that she knew Ryan and I were still in contact before the wedding and that she chose to stay silent. Her reputation is ruined. The Bennett family Noel Onger protects her. She wrote me a long letter. I didn't reply. Some people apologize to ease their own pain, not to heal your wounds. I don't need to do this for her. Olivia also testified. She provided the communication records between Ryan and Mark over the years. In exchange, she received a lighter sentence. She asked me if she could meet. I refused. I've heard enough about I couldn't do anything either. 3 months later, the court revoked that forged divorce document. My marriage legally existed, but I applied for a real divorce. This time, the signature was written by my own hand. Every stroke was steady. The Brookline house reverted to my name. The hidden account left by my mother was also found. The money inside isn't exaggerated, but it's enough for me to start over. More importantly, it was the freedom she left for me. I sold the house where I lived with Ryan. I didn't linger. There were too many lies in that house. I didn't want to wake up every day and see the shadows of being deceived. I moved back to Brookline. Mother's old house was repainted. The weeds in the garden were CLE. The old oak tree is still there. When spring comes, small white flowers bloom in the yard. I reopened my event planning company. The first project was a launch event for female entrepreneurs. That day, I stood backstage at the venue, watching the lights turn on, the guests enter, and suddenly remembered Chloe's wedding. That day, I lost everything at someone else's wedding. My husband, my friends, my past, my trust in myself. But now, I stand at another venue. No one can push me out anymore. No one can define my identity for me. No one can tell me if I'm crazy. Ethan came to that he wasn't wearing a lawyer's suit, but a dark overcoat, holding a bouquet of white tulips. "Congratulations," he said. I took the flowers. "Thank you." He looked at me, his eyes gentle. There was so much between us that couldn't be summarized by simple liking or love. He had helped me. He had also hidden things from me. He had saved me. He had also brought his own hatred into my case. But in the end, he learned to stand by my side, rather than in front of me. That was important. "What are your plans next?" he asked. I looked at the venue. "Work, travel, fix my mother's house, maybe get a dog." He smiled. "Sounds good. As for the other things," I looked at him. "Let's take it slow." Ethan nodded. "I can wait." I didn't answer, but I didn't refuse either. Before the press conference started, I received an email from the prison system. Ryan wanted to see me. I stared at that email for a long time, then I clicked delete. Some endings don't need to be confronted face to face. Some people don't deserve to have your last look. I walked onto the stage. The lights fell on me. Many women sat in the audience. Some had just started their businesses. Some had just divorced. Some had just climbed up from failure. I picked up the microphone. I didn't talk about Ryan. I didn't talk about Chloe. I didn't talk about those dirty conspiracies. I only said one sentence. To start anew isn't to forget the past, but to no longer let the past make decisions for you. The applause rang out. I stood under the lights, for the first time not feeling afraid. I had lost everything at a wedding. Later I realized that wasn't the end. That was the first day of me starting over.